Is your superannuation fund liquid enough? Hi there, I'm Jared Brown, Australian Expat Financial Planner, and in this video, what I want to share with you are some common concerns that we see among many Australians and certainly analysts around the liquidity of superannuation funds in Australia and if some super funds should be concerned, particularly their members. Now, if we look at liquidity and what this means, effectively it means how many of the investments sitting within a fund are liquid, meaning daily traded stocks, for example, or ETFs or unit trusts, things that you can exit and liquidate relatively quickly. Now, what would be an unlisted or illiquid asset? That might be an unlisted property, commercial property, it might be an airport, it might be a bridge, something that can't be sold quickly and therefore liquidated on a rapid note. Now, when we look at liquidity and what is a reasonable yardstick, what is a benchmark, how much do we really need to be concerned about here? Well, under the Corporations Act in Australia, the managed investment schemes are said to be liquid, providing that at least 80% of their investments are in liquid funds, or not unlisted property and unlisted assets. Now, a recent study was carried out on the 5 largest industry super funds in Australia, which represent about 40% of the $2.5 trillion sitting inside Australia's super system. And the exposure to these unlisted or illiquid assets ranged from 13% all the way up to 34%. Now, does that mean that the members with 34% exposure to illiquid assets should be cashing out and changing super funds? Not exactly. And in some cases, the people with 13% should be more concerned than those at 34%. And here's what you need to review with your own superannuation fund, particularly if you're in one of the larger industry funds. Number 1 is to review your super fund's liquidity management plan. How do they manage liquidity? How much exposure do they have to those illiquid assets? That needs to be published, disclosed to their members. If you're not sure, reach out to your advisor. They'll be able to step you through exactly what this one looks like. Number 2 is to review the average age of the members in the super fund itself. Now, why this is important is if the average age of members is increasing, and let's say it's 50s, 60s, even 70s, then that is going to mean that those people are in drawdown or in pension phase. They're taking money out of the super fund to fund their retirement. Compare that to a super fund with an average age in the 20s or 30s, those people are going to continue to work for the next 30, 40 odd years and obviously contribute to that super fund. And why that's important, which brings us to point number 3, is reviewing the inflows and the outflows of the super fund itself. If there is 30% exposure to illiquid assets, but there's double the amount of money coming in than going out, that 30% will drop quite quickly, because there's obviously a lot more cash coming in than there is going out. But what if there is half the money coming in compared to the money going out to retirees in the form of pension payments? Then that 30% could become 35 or 40, and then it could become a problem. Now, what can also happen, as we've seen globally over the last few years, is you can also get what is called a run on a fund. We've seen it with Greek banks back in the GFC. We've seen it with Silicon Valley Bank and various other US banks in recent years. When panic sets in and members want to withdraw their funds quickly, liquidity can dry up very quickly as well. So if you're a super fund member, not just in the industry funds, but in any superannuation fund, review those 3 things: your liquidity management plan of the super fund, the average age of the members, and the inflows versus the outflows of that super fund. Drop me a note with any questions, but I appreciate you tuning in. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.